Welcome back to the Snow Farms podcast, episode 12. I am your host, Andrea, and my handsome magnifying glass wearing
They're called cheaters.
husband
Reading glasses.
is joining me at the mic. Today is Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. Today, our topic is good fences make good neighbors.
So, hello again, and we're both at that age now where eyesight started to fail me. I made it to 44 without wearing any kind of glasses. Went to the 1.25 readers. Now I'm up to the 1.75 a couple years later, and we all make mistakes. Sometimes we order things from Amazon, and I ordered a 5-pack of the new strength glasses, and instead of just ordering all black, I'm like, I'll go for the multicolors. Maybe Andrew can wear these. And it seems all I can find are the flamboyantly colored glasses now. So you're missing out because right now I'm in these. It's not neon. What is it? Pastel blue? Turquoise. It's super classy, super dignified. It's everything that a man should not be seen in public with. But here I am. Thankfully, I have a face for radio and a voice for print. So this median and not being able to show it on video, I'm glad there's no permanent record of this other than my description. So good fences make good neighbors. This is a big saying out west, and it's twofold. So it's metaphorical and it's practical. On the metaphorical side, boundaries in every relationship, and whether that's husband, wife, children, professional, extended family, boundaries are important. Saying those things and having clear lines, it's a really good thing for healthy relationships. What do you think, Andrea?
I agree, Russ.
See? That's why I love her. She's like, I agree. You're right. Always right. It's good. So on the practical side, though, on the homestead, good fences matter. And they matter in a variety of different ways. One, as simple as it sounds, keeping your animals from getting out and disappearing, wandering off, it's a really, really big deal. Two, the strain that can come if your cattle, goats, sheep, rabbits, doesn't matter, dogs, wander into your neighbor's yard and destroy their favorite azaleas. Those things, it's hard to unbreak that plate with your neighbors. There's physical danger. So our big dog likes to get out and play chicken on the road in front of our house. So those are things that we have to worry about, plan for, and then when you do have animals get out, fix it in a way where it doesn't happen again. So one of the things that we've had cattle since 2015. Because I bought them the year after I got to Texas. So, and the fences we had there were okay. They weren't, but it didn't take me long to get them pretty much cow tight. And then one of the habits I have, and I did today when I got home, is walking the fence line. So at least weekly, if not daily, you should walk your fence line. And whether you're coming from a permaculture standpoint or simply from observational standpoint, it gives you a bunch of great data every day. How's my soil? How are my neighbors? What are the sounds like through the year? Today, we've got a beautyberry that it needs to be picked and jellied. I tried to get Andrea to do it, and she gave me this look like something about I have all this work to do and things to teach. I don't
even know what he's talking about. I've never seen a beautyberry before.
I'm going to take her tomorrow, and we're going to make beautyberry jelly, which it's harder to say than it should be. So walking your fences, getting to know, and starting to look at, okay, do I have trees that are about to fall that need to be serviced? Do I have limbs that are about to fall that are going to, knock down part of the fence or give my animals an avenue to escape? On the cattle side, I'm a big fan of 6-strand barbed wire. So what that does for you is it's tight enough and close enough. It's really hard for the cow to get their head through, and that's going to prevent a couple things. If you have cows on both sides of your fence, you're normally not going to have a problem about the cows trying to eat on the other side of the fence. Where you're going to have that problem is along your roads, where the cow's favorite grass always grows along your roadways. So on that side, keep that mowed, keep it short, make it something they're not trying to get over there and eat, so they don't stretch your fences out, they don't get through. Goats. So there is no fence on this planet that can hold a goat that wants to get out. They're amazing creatures.
Unless it's a really heavy cattle panel.
And they will still free themselves.
Not yet.
She freed herself. No goats have died in any of our fencing calamities. Sheep, on the other hand, every fence is just an opportunity to die. Where with goats, every fence is just an opportunity for them to test it and show you what a failure you are as a farmer, an engineer, and a human being. And the greatest thing in the world is goats don't want to go anywhere else. They're your buddy. They want to see you. But your car is a jungle gym to a goat. So there's nothing better than waking up with goats dancing on your car. We haven't had that happen yet here. We've done a really good job of keeping the goats contained. Cattle panels are another thing that we can keep the goats. We've done this on our rotational grazing. So right now, the next step for us is trying to engineer a way to where we have put some wheels on it. With two of us, we've figured out it's fairly easy to move. But we're using really heavy cattle panels right now, the interlock that we use for a portable corral when we're loading and unloading cows. So long term is probably not the best solution. We're going to get there. But in that day-to-day, getting stuff done and making it work, it's been awesome. And I think that the great thing about rotational grazing is you see the immediate effect of the animals eating the grass down. And then as you move away from where they ate down, you see that grass recover in a way that supersedes everything around it. And it's just awesome when you can contain all of the manure of the animal in that space. Pigs, man, pigs are tough, especially conventional full-size pigs, but even American guinea hogs, which I'm a huge fan of. If this is your first time getting a pig, you can't go wrong with the American guinea hog, but you'd better be serious about your fencing for them and understand they are crafty and they have nothing but time. They're like inmates in a prison. They have nothing but time. And the American guinea hogs, again, they're like pigs. They don't necessarily want to go anywhere, but they are going to test your fences. And if you have any weak spots, they're going to escape. And you'll find them eating your favorite flowers.
Or shrubs.
Or chickens, because they're murderous little creatures. The thing that I think has worked best for us is hog panels inside of cattle panels. So it gives weight and heft. We tie everything together, and we've had really, really good luck with that about not having pigs escape. But even big mama hog we have left now, that her days are numbered before she goes to the butcher, she's not even trying to escape, but they're so big and she's so strong. She's pushing 300 pounds right now on the hoof. And her ability to get into the ground and dig holes for her to land, she's got probably 18 inches below the bottom of the fence right now. So that is one of those things that folks have talked about and we've tried on the hot wire. But I've got a buddy down in Central Texas. He's going through the same thing that we went through with the hogs. When it gets dry and you don't get the grounding, the good shocking, the pigs will just say, "I can take a little pain for freedom," and they're out. So I know that if you're in a place where the soil stays wet or you have a really high water table where your grounding works really well, electric fencing works fairly well. But as soon as, because the pigs are going to test it every single day, make sure it's on. Cattle, once they get shocked 2 or 3 times, they'll never test that fence again. They will avoid it. You don't even, once they're trained to it, they'll never test it again. So with the pigs, especially back to your neighbors and the fact that hogs can escape and return right back to the wild and be just fine on their own. As we know in the South, with the huge pig problem that we have, you have to keep those pigs contained. Again, that's part about being a good neighbor. Um, until you get your pigs dialed in, go heavy and go hard on the fencing. With the coonies, they're smaller, they're super sweet. I'm going to be curious moving forward to see how everything, how the coonies, what we can do with them. They're just not as aggressive as any of the other pigs we've had. They're just a much more mellow pig. They don't dig. They have a little wallow where they like to get in there and cool down, but it may be 3 inches deep.
Yeah, that's right at the front of their pen. And that's mostly deeper there because that's where the water runs into.
Yeah, and that's, for hogs, especially here in the South, as hot as it gets. And we had a really brutal summer here this year, which is normal. It's called summer in the South. It's brutal every year. But anytime it's above 105 for a prolonged amount of time, it's hard on the livestock. It's hard on us. It's hard on equipment. So we're looking forward on that side. The big thing to be aware of with electric netting is your geese, your juvenile chickens, and your small ducks will get caught in that, get shocked, start to panic, and just lay there and spasm until you either find them and release them or they die. So it's just something, as soon as they get to, it seems like when they get to adulthood that it's not an issue. But for the 2 to 4 month olds, it's something that happens quite a bit. The smaller chickens, under 2 months old, they just run in and out of it. Inner coops. So the big thing there so we have the Scovich style mobile chicken tractors. The hardware cloth around the bottom 2 feet solves so many problems for you as far as predator insertion. So it keeps raccoons, bobcats, coyotes out of there. We haven't had any losses inside the Scovich tractors. We do have some snakes. One of the greatest thing to get rid of your snakes, other than being out the coop all the time, are wooden eggs. Because when snakes do find them, they are going to die. Most of the time, they don't go too far. We lost 3 wooden eggs today. Don't know where that snake went, but he will perish because they can't pass that. And they'll die a horrific death, of which I'm always happy about, because they're stealing eggs from us. So on to tools you'll need for fencing on the homestead. So we use a ton of T-posts. They're basically infinitely reusable. There's a little metal sheath down the bottom that helps you drive it straight and gives a little surface area and this and that. If that falls off, it's just tack welded on there. If that falls off, not the end of the world. Don't sweat it. Throw it away. And you can just keep driving that thing in the earth and taking it out. So you'll need a T-post driver. Make sure you don't hit yourself in the head with that. Andrea has been there. I've done it at least once.
Yes.
Yeah. Traumatic brain injury is real. T-post pullers. I think they're around $50. Who knows with inflation now what that price is. But you just simply put that against the stay. There are all these little metal stays in the post itself. It's a lever, and it just pulls it straight up out of the ground. It is slick. Or you can sit there and try and swing it in 16 different directions to loosen it up for 3 days. Or you can just go, it's night and day. We also use our tractor, the front end loader, when the soil is soft, malleable. And in Milford, I could raise up the entire tractor about 6 inches down off the ground. So it's over 6,000 pounds Mahindra. And the entire front end would come off the ground, and it would go 6 inches in the ground and be like, you're done. And I'd be out there pounding for the next 20 minutes to get it another foot in the ground. Where here, every one of them is just slides in the ground smooth. It's amazing how much better the soil is here in Oklahoma. So you have those options. There are little gas-powered drivers. You can rent those. You can buy those. If you're putting up brand new fencing, 10, 20, 100 acres, There's some PTO powered things you can put in the back of your tractor. That would be an option as well. So then you have corner bracing, H posts. So these are things when you're putting in either ends, corners, or gates that you're going to need for the fencing to be tight. So there's all kinds of video tutorials out there. I'm sure we'll get to putting in H posts and which direction you put everything, how you put the pins through, tightening the wire, everything that way. You can go with wooden posts, you can go with treated posts, you can go with locust, cedar. There's all kinds of different things. As Spirico always says, your answer, it depends. What's going to last the best where you're at? What's cheap where you're at? Or what do you have in your farm? So we have tons and tons of cedar. And then the 80 acres I picked up to lease, there is an unlimited amount. It's a lifetime supply of cedar posts on that place that I'm going to try and harvest and skin or take to a sawmill and have for, and then stays. So you have staves with a V and stays. So they're metal fence stays that you twist through the barbed wire, and then staves are when you wind a piece of wood through the barbed wire. So it's just alternating, and it does a couple things. It tightens the wire, and then it gives visual cues to your cattle and horses that there's a fence there. So it keeps them back, and it makes the fence seem more forbidding. Verboten. That's German for forbidden. Let's see here. Cement versus tamping. So on your corner posts, depends on where you're at, what's going to work best for you, what's good enough. You can put cement in, or you can just tamp the dirt back in. If your soil doesn't move, if you don't have a ton of clay in it, where it's going to absorb water, dry up, and have a bunch of movement, tamping is just fine. For us here, for a lot of what I did, cement helps a ton. See, rocks. If you have a ton of rocks in your place, like we drove through Arkansas and we saw a bunch of fencing where all the tension was put against big rounds of rocks. So that's definitely something you can do instead of trying to drive 3 feet of post in the ground. If you have hard ground, you can just do it above ground and go off that. Again, remember those gates in your fencing. If you're putting up new fencing with your neighbors, always put a gate. Every new fence that you put a gate in with your neighbors. It may cost you a couple $100 extra to put in, T-posts, put the gate in, hang the gate. It's a little more work. But when your animal does escape and you have a gate that you can just open up and herd the animal through versus trying to get it through 16 different things and through somebody's backyard and around by a street. Good fences make good neighbors. Putting that gate in, being able to take your equipment, your tractor next door, and muck out stalls. All these things, it makes sense to do. Have that forethought. And again, eat some of that cost sometimes just to be a good neighbor, but it will make your life easier long-term as well. Electric fencing, pros and cons. When it works, it's awesome. And for us, where we're at, when the soil is moist here, it's tremendous. When it's not, we have to go ahead and water the grounding rods. So where we're at in Milford, I had to put some of those in at crazy angles. I was putting them underneath where the eaves of buildings dripped off, trying to put them in moist areas to get that grounding. So it's great. It's really good for mob grazing, for regenerative grazing, for when you're moving the cows every day. That's where electric fencing just shines. And getting your animals trained, and they know that tomorrow there's going to be a new pasture. It's great. Your young calves will bounce back and forth. You have to, it probably takes them a month. And they're going to wander over, get on the other side, get shocked, not want to come back to mama. And your job is to help them get back over there and figure it out they can stay there. So for that first month, 6 weeks after you have calves, you probably need to check them twice a day if you're going to run them with electric fencing. But even with conventional fencing, calves have a way of escaping and then getting the other side and not remembering how they got there, because God bless them, if they were smart, they wouldn't get in the trailer to go to the butcher. high tensile. So this is something that I did. And if you've got long rectangular pastures that you're going to break up into regenerative mob grazing paddocks, high tensile running from one end to the other. And we used it. I put one down the center and then one on both sides. And it is fantastic. It goes up fairly quickly. The greatest thing about it is you can run current down it, run your parallel paddock fencing across that from one side to the other, have great current on everywhere, and then tighten it as years go by. There's a built-in little lever. You can tighten it to however many pounds. There's a spring on both ends. It's super strong. It's awkward to deploy because you're using this spinning Jenny thing. It's there's no barbs on it. So the cows, if it's not on, there's nothing to stop them from just leaning through it, deciding they want to go someplace else. Speaking of barbs, always, for me at least, I always spend the extra money on the 4 barbs versus the 2 barbs. Again, it just makes it a little more painful when they're trying to reach through to the other side. And if you can keep them from going through the fence with their head, it's going to keep, as simple as it sounds, it keeps them from putting the rest of their body through that same space. What's this next page? That's the end of the notes. So what am I forgetting? Andrea, you sat here. I just read through these notes that you were so kind to write down while we were driving.
Didn't leave out anything. And I had you talk about it because you were the person that put most of the fence up.
So I have done a ton of fencing. So in Milford, down in Texas, I redid all of our fencing there. We had the old boy we bought the place from, nice enough fellow. He had a bunch of horse panels and cattle panels instead of fencing. So I took all those down, redid all that fencing, and we took those cattle panels with us here. We still have those. And then here I've redone all of our fences on where we had barbed wire, which was half the place. And we've got no climb over on one side with the weed farm that it's got 2, maybe 3 years tops left on that. And I'll need to redo that. It won't be a big deal. It's just time. The lease land that we have, there's 80 acres and it's split by a wet weather creek that I'm going to need to both ends. So there's 11 acres on one side and 70 acres, 69 acres on the other side that I'll need to run fencing to keep them out of the creek. And then we'll transport them. We'll put them in a trailer on both sides. We'll graze that 11 acres early, put them on the big patch, graze that, and then eventually get to the point where we can maybe hay off the big patch early on. But I still haven't decided. I think I'm just going to do barbed wire along that. I've got to clear a bunch of trees out, and there's good and bad. There's a ton of work, but there's a ton of opportunity with that work. I was looking as I drove by today, the bottomland, there's just tons and tons of trees to clear out. So we'll have firewood, wood to build buildings with. I was looking today, I've got 4 big eastern cedar trees in our place, red eastern cedar, whatever it is. It's an invasive species here in Oklahoma. They'll pay you to cut down. But I'm going to build a pole barn using the cedar here, just putting cement a couple feet down, 10 feet tall, give or take, run to a 9 foot on the backside, collect the water coming off of it, and then have a place to park the tractor, some of the equipment out of the elements in there. And then eventually site it as I cut down more and more of the cedar trees. Instead of just burning them, take those, have them wood inch laps, and we'll just throw that up and keep the sun out, slow the wind down a little bit. But before you bring home animals, make sure that your fences are ready. And you're going to have animals get out. That's just part of it. You're going to, if you haven't grown up on a farm and been beat down about shutting gates behind you every time you go in and out, you're going to forget to leave a gate open. I forget to leave gates open all the time. So those things happen. Have a plan. We're going to talk later about herding livestock, putting livestock on trailers, and Temple Grandin and moving them by, it's Dr. Burt. I have the book. They're both tremendous resources. But understanding animal psychology and how to get them to go where you want them to go will make your life a ton easier. But having those good fences and keeping them in to start with makes your life easier. So, Andrea, do you have anything else before we go?
No.
Okay. As always, I'm very thankful you joined us, Andrea. On the next episode, I promise I will make you talk a lot more. The audience demands it.
It's just about fence. I only move goat panels.
So thanks for listening, and we will catch you on the other side. And remember, every day is an opportunity to learn
something new.
See ya.